Breaking tonight on ABC News Live Prime, what led to the deadliest skiing avalanche in U.S. history. At least 8 skiers killed, 6 rescued, 1 still missing. The group on a backcountry trip. Avalanche warnings posted before they left. Rescuers facing treacherous conditions trying to reach the victims in Northern California.
I'm Aaron Katursky reporting from Tucson, Arizona tonight, 24 hours after revealing DNA on a glove did not match anyone in a federal database. What authorities are doing to try and find a match as the reward for information doubles.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg taking the stand in the landmark social media trial. The brother of Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, speaks only with ABC News. The scare just after takeoff, an unruly passenger caught on camera assaulting another passenger. Half of all the new demand for electricity over the next 5 years in the U.S. is expected to come from data centers, the backbone of AI technology. In partnership with our stations across the country, our Elizabeth Scholze saw how they're dividing communities, bringing the promise of new jobs, but fears of higher utility bills.
Why should people who don't live in this area, might not ever come to this part of Wisconsin, care about what's happening?
They should care because it's their backyard next.
The dangerous social media stunt that sparked a dramatic rescue off a New York City bridge. The great wing debate is over. Which way the judge's decision flew over what is or isn't a wing. And for the first time, a brand new category, an Oscar for achievement in casting. How these casting directors found the perfect people for award-worthy roles.
I'm in the field of casting because I'm obsessed with humanity and exploring what it means to be human.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, I'm Perry Russaman for Lindsay Davis. Thank you for streaming with us. We begin with what has become one of the deadliest ski-related avalanches in U.S. history. Authorities in Northern California say 8 backcountry skiers were killed in a massive avalanche in the Sierra Nevada mountains. 6 others survived. Officials say the avalanche was about the length of a football field, sweeping up the skiers on the day the group was set to return home from a 3-day trip. Tonight, 1 skier is still missing and is believed to be dead. Rescuers braved dangerous weather conditions, snow, high winds, and little visibility to reach the remote area, which is only accessible by snowcats or cross-country skis. Trevor Ault leading us off from California.
Tonight, the devastating ending to a daring search effort in Northern California. Officials say a massive avalanche the size of a football field buried a group of backcountry skiers. 8 people have now been found deceased, and a 9th person still missing is presumed dead.
They were attempting to go out as a group. That someone saw the avalanche, yelled avalanche, and then it overtook them rather quickly.
The group of 11 skiers and 4 guides were returning from a 3-day guided trip in the backcountry near Castle Peak, not far from Lake Tahoe. That avalanche hitting just before noon. 1 guide and 5 skiers surviving, rescued overnight after contacting help with an SOS call. This is what the conditions looked like at the time nearby.
Extreme weather conditions, I would say, is an understatement. Lots of snow, gale force winds, making it impossible to see.
With choppers grounded by the weather, it took rescue teams 6 hours on snowcats and skis to finally reach them. 2 of them with injuries had to be carried back. The survivors had found 3 deceased members of their group. Search teams then found 5 more, all of them close together. Because of the extreme conditions and the rush to save the survivors, rescuers were forced to leave the bodies of those 8 killed there on the mountain. One of them is the spouse of one of the rescuers.
As you can understand, this has not only been challenging for our community, it's been a challenging rescue, but it's also been challenging emotionally for our team and our organization.
The group's tour guide company Blackbird Mountain Guides has said they were working with investigators in the search and recovery effort.
We're up here at 9,400 feet.
Earlier this week, they posted this video on Instagram, warning of a big storm coming 2 days before what's now believed to be the deadliest avalanche in more than 30 years.
There were significant warnings about this storm, forecasts of it, highways shut down, other ski resorts were closed. Would these guides have known they were potentially leading this group into a deadly situation?
Those are all questions that we're asking, and appreciate the patience while we get through this and investigate the totality. Not just so that we know, but so these families know.
Trevor joins us now. Trevor, the weather conditions still dangerous for search and rescue teams.
Absolutely they are, Perry, and there's still going to be more snow coming down, gale force winds. We know those 8 bodies are still on the mountain, likely another that is still missing, but there's been so much snow continuing to come down that exact spot where the avalanche occurred is now reloaded with snow. They could have another avalanche in that exact same spot that could threaten these recovery teams. It could also potentially rebury those bodies. Perry.
Trevor All, thank you. Let's bring in meteorologist Lee Goldberg. Lee, just some terrible weather conditions out west. How are things looking for rescue crews and those avalanche warnings?
Still very challenging over the next 24 hours, Perry. We still have widespread winter storm warnings here in the west. And then, of course, the high winds and the fire danger from the southwest all the way in the Midwest, from New Mexico to Iowa. Blizzard warnings to the north. And then you have winter weather advisories that extend on I-90 in New York State into parts of western Massachusetts. So avalanche warnings and threats remain high from the Sierra into the Rockies. There's another round of rain and snow coming in Wednesday into Thursday, or tonight into Thursday, I should say. And then a piece of that Pacific energy is going to cause some severe weather in the Ohio Valley. So let's say from Indianapolis to Cincinnati Thursday afternoon, maybe some damaging winds, even a brief tornado. Then we move on to the Northeast with some rain from D.C. to New York on Friday, especially in the morning hours, a rough commute, and could be icy and a little snowy up toward the Catskill Mountains of New York. Then we get into Sunday, the third storm of the week. And this one, it looks like a powerful storm, but the brunt may be offshore. It's certainly a close call along the coast with some snowfall. We'll be looking at the storm track all week long. Perry?
Thank you, Lee. Passengers were forced to evacuate a JetBlue plane using slides after the crew reported smoke in the cockpit. This happened at Newark Airport a short time ago. The plane had left for Florida, but immediately returned in what authorities said was engine failure. Flight operations out of Newark Airport were briefly stopped. They are now back to normal. No injuries reported. JetBlue says an investigation is underway. Now to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. The FBI is looking into the possibility she was taken across the border into Mexico. It comes as authorities analyze DNA evidence found inside the house. That DNA does not match Guthrie or her family. Chief Investigative Correspondent Aaron Katursky is in Tucson tonight.
Tonight, the FBI is now exploring the possibility Nancy Guthrie was taken across the border into Mexico, just 60 miles from her home. While there are no firm leads pointing south, law enforcement sources tell ABC News the FBI has reached out to Mexican authorities to put her disappearance on their radar. It comes as investigators are analyzing partial DNA found inside Nancy Guthrie's house that does not match the 84-year-old grandmother or anyone close to her. They're comparing it to criminal databases and looking at forensic genetic genealogy. The technology connected to genetic genealogy, the family tree, is changing rapidly when it comes to what private labs can do to help authorities track down potential suspects. One of those cutting-edge labs, Othram in Houston, Texas. David Middleman's the CEO.
In this case, an abduction, someone that we're trying to return back to family. It's really important to do this super fast. You just can't afford to wait, weeks. Every day matters.
Middleman and his wife, Kristen, have built a high-tech forensic genealogy lab, and their work has been used in high-profile cases across the country. Middleman will not say if any of the authorities have reached out to Othram in the Guthrie case. He says state and local authorities have for years counted on CODIS, the FBI's database, where criminals have had their 20 DNA markers inputted. What's eye-opening is that Othram's technology allows them to go well beyond those 20 markers in a DNA test that's been used for many years.
DNA was how old?
David reported on the new technology, visiting their lab just last year.
For the last 30 years, people have used a different kind of DNA testing technology that can measure 20 data points in the DNA. This machine actually can read out the entire sequence. So whereas you might get 20 data points in the earlier versions of this technology, this machine could give you anywhere from 100,000 to 1 million data points.
100,000 to 1 million?
100,000 to 1 million data points.
Far more than what traditional testing shows. They then turn to publicly available genealogy databases and using their own technology and AI advances to rapidly see if there are relatives out there who uploaded their DNA and if that information can then help crack a case.
When you have a lot of markers, then what you're able to do is to make these precise measurements. You're a second or third cousin. And if you know who those folks are, then you can use public records and family trees to essentially reverse engineer the identity of the source for that evidentiary DNA.
Othram has helped the FBI before. In the Idaho College murders, they helped investigators zero in on the suspect, Brian Kohberger. And since that case, they say artificial intelligence and technology have only made their work more efficient. And tonight, authorities are continuing to study that video from Nancy Guthrie's front door. The gun, the holster, the backpack, the clothes. Walmart is now searching receipts statewide. They're hopeful someone will see the video and remember someone who bought those items or someone who looks like this man. And tonight, for the first time, we are inside this 911 center in Tucson where operators are being inundated with tips 18 days into the search for Nancy Guthrie.
Sheriff's Department, can you please hold? Is this in regards to the Nancy Guthrie case?
This is the Sheriff's Department's communications section. Thousands of tips about Nancy Guthrie have come right here, and when the information is viable, these call takers don't wait. They can get it right to the investigators. If there's a tip about Nancy Guthrie, it's coming here.
It's coming here. We've resorted to modifying our questioning and trying to basically get down to the nitty gritty to kind of help vet some of these calls that are coming into the center.
Get to the point.
Get to the point, yes.
And as the tips come in across this community, they're putting up yellow ribbons. They have still not given up hope Nancy Guthrie will come home.
I live like one neighborhood over.
Carrie told me there's a reason why this case has touched so many.
My mom is 83, and I just can't even imagine if I was in that position as her family, too. So, yeah, it's very sad.
That's just it, right? It seems to be striking a chord with everybody.
Yeah, I feel like it's like America's mom, right?
So again, Perry, the authorities here in Tucson are now in touch with law enforcement officials in Mexico just in case. And today, investigators received an anonymous donation enabling the reward for information to double now to $200,000. The number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Perry?
Aaron, thank you. We are several days into a partial government shutdown, and there is no immediate end in sight. The shutdown is leading to a pause in funding for the Department of Homeland Security. And joining us now to discuss is Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, who is also a part of the Homeland Security Committee. Thank you for speaking with us tonight, Senator. So let's start with the partial government shutdown. Your colleagues in Congress and the White House have offered no signs of compromise over the funding of the Department of Homeland Security. Where do negotiations stand right now behind closed doors?
Look, behind closed doors, I think we're just not at the point where we have any type of compromise. What we're asking is what the American people are asking for. We want professional law enforcement. We want ICE and federal agents working with ICE to use search warrants for them to stop these overt city suppressions of our cities, for them to treat the localities with respect, to target criminals. And what we're getting back from this administration is they don't want to do any of that. They just want us to continue giving them money. And after seeing 2 Americans die in less than 2.5 weeks separation, that's not the place that I'm willing to go to.
So what is your message to the federal workers who are working right now without pay?
Well, look, we know for a fact that ICE, Border Patrol, and other agencies within DHS have enough money for them to continue their operations. They have enough money, as a matter of fact, more than the United States Marine Corps. Let's just agree that we should continue to fund the Coast Guard, FEMA, TSA, for them to continue to do their work, because it is nonpartisan and is aligned with the goals and the understanding of what the American publics want. But what's happening with ICE right now, the fact that they're running amok among our cities, not respecting U.S. citizens, racially profiling, killing American citizens. Now they're opening up detention warehouses all over the country without any input from localities. This is a federal agency that is running amok. It needs to be reined in. The administration needs to understand that, need to come and work with us to align this agency with where the public wants. Because what they want, what they're seeing right now is not what they want.
You've recently said that ICE is absolutely rotten right now. How do you think this topic is going to play into the midterms coming up?
Well, I think it's going to play not very well for Republicans. This is an issue right now that is on the negative side for Republicans and for Donald Trump. Americans are very clear, and this is why when we ran in Arizona, we were able to win the state, even though Donald Trump also won the state. They want a secure border. They got that from President Trump. What they don't want, though, is the chaos that was at our border and now are chaos in the streets. They don't want the racial profiling of Americans to be happening. They don't want targeting of children and separation of families. They don't want the warehousing of immigrants. They want professional, legal immigration enforcement, and they're not getting that right now.
You were coming to us from your home state of Arizona, where the search continues for Nancy Guthrie. Have you been in touch with the Guthrie family at all, or local authorities? And what do you know about the latest on the investigation?
We've not been in touch with the Guthrie family, largely because we want to make sure that they're able to do what they want. We're trying to stay out of this. We want this to be a professionally conducted search. We want both our local entities, the Pima County Sheriff, as well as our federal agencies to work together in a comprehensive manner and a professional manner to make sure that we bring her back and we hold the people accountable that kidnapped her.
Any concerns with, you were also at the Munich Security Conference in Germany last weekend where you met with several foreign defense ministers and stressed the importance of the U.S. economic collaboration with Latin America. Do you think that message was well received by our allies in the Western Hemisphere?
I think it was somewhat well received. Like, there were some people that were, happy that we were willing to use our American military, our men and women, to potentially do regime change. But as I told some of these conservative leaders of Latin America, if they want to see regime change in Latin America, then they should be sending their troops to go engage in war. We don't want to be the world police, and we certainly don't want to be the world bully. And the way that we're going right now with this presidency, the way he's using our military, we're more the world bully than anything else.
Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, thank you, sir, for your time. Today is Ash Wednesday. It's a day of fasting and reflection, marking the start of Lent. Millions of Christians attending church today for a service that emphasizes the start of a season of reflection and to repent from sin. Worshippers receiving ashes in the form of a cross on their foreheads. Ash Wednesday starts a 40-day countdown to Easter. It falls on April 5th this year. All right, coming up, an ABC exclusive with the brother of Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein, why he says she is choosing to remain silent. Plus, panic on board a plane as one Delta passenger says a man just started punching everyone. Then a deep dive into the impact of AI data centers on Americans, from surging electricity bills to the threat of losing land. Stay with us. As Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, sits in federal prison, her brother Ian Maxwell sat down with our chief foreign correspondent James Longman for an exclusive, wide-ranging interview, from a possible pardon for her to the infamous photo of Ghislaine and Prince Andrew with Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre.
The former Prince Andrew has already had all his titles taken from him, been forced to move to a smaller residence and been shunned from public life. Now he faces new pressure as UK police say they're examining flight logs at a UK airport used by Jeffrey Epstein's private jet. A BBC investigation found nearly 80 flights linked to the convicted sex offender that arrived or departed from UK airports from the early 90s to 2018. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown wants Andrew to face police questions and says Stansted Airport in London was used to fly women from Eastern Europe, saying his messages link at least one to Britain and the former Prince Andrew. Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing and says he was introduced to Epstein by mutual friend Ghislaine Maxwell. That's a claim she denies, as she serves 20 years in prison for conspiring with Epstein to sexually abuse young girls. I spoke exclusively with her brother Ian, who defended her decision to plead the Fifth to Congress last week.
She was given the opportunity to speak to Congress. She invoked her Fifth Amendment. Why did she do that?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Well, the legal advice was absolutely clear, and you need to think about this quite carefully. She did speak to Todd Blanche, of the Deputy Attorney General of the member of the DOJ, back in, I think it was the end of July last year.
A critic might say, well, she spoke to Todd Blanche because Todd Blanche may not have been across all the details in the same way as members of Congress are, that she just backed away from a proper grilling.
Well, you say that. He asked her over 2 days of questioning, several hundred questions. She didn't fail to answer a single one of those. So I reject that. She may be hated, but she is at least entitled to the dignity of the court deciding what is to be her fate, and not Congress, who are only interested in theatrics and using the victims as props to beat President Trump or President Clinton, whichever side of the aisle you are.
After speaking to Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, Maxwell was moved to a more comfortable facility in Texas, something that outraged Epstein survivors.
People have suggested that was a reward for speaking to Blanche.
Ghislaine is possibly the most notorious prisoner in the U.S. federal system today. It was a notoriously violent and dangerous place. For her own safety, she had to be moved.
So she wasn't moved as a reward for saying President Trump had done nothing wrong?
President Trump has not done anything wrong. You tell me, have you found anything wrong in the papers yet? I haven't seen anything there.
Because there is a widely held perception that Ghislaine is holding back secrets, and until she gets clemency, she won't reveal everything she knows.
Well, I think that's a fallacy. You know, I've explained to you why she has chosen to remain silent. 1, it's her constitutional right. 2, she has an active, live, civil proceeding in front of a federal court. 3, she's entitled that it is the court that takes the view on Ghislaine, not grandstanding members of Congress.
Maxwell has filed a long-shot petition to have her case re-examined. If that fails, the only option left to her would be a presidential pardon. Her legal team has suggested that her testimony could exonerate Presidents Trump and Clinton of any wrongdoing. Both presidents have repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and say they were not aware of any criminal activity by Epstein.
Ghislaine has not asked President Trump for a pardon. The fact of the matter is that the Epstein scandal is being used by both sides of the aisle to beat the present president and the former president.
Do you believe that President Trump should pardon her?
I am hopeful that the petition will reach the judge presiding over the petition based on the evidence.
As Andrew continues to face pressure in the UK, there is new focus on the infamous photograph with Virginia Giuffre.
So I do want to talk to you about the photograph, because as you'll know, that came up in the emails that were released most recently. According to Giuffre, that photo was taken in March 2001. But then in emails from January 2015, it looks like Ghislaine is writing to Jeffrey Epstein and they're trying to workshop a statement on that photograph. And it says in the email, "It was in London when, name redacted, met a number of friends of mine, including Prince Andrew. A photograph was taken as I imagined she wanted to show it to friends and family." That suggests that Ghislaine does not believe the photograph to be a fake. And yet, in her testimony to Todd Blanche, she said she thought it was, which is true.
My reading of that 2015 mail, purportedly from Ghislaine, firstly, it's a draft. So we don't know what actually came out of it. What we can see is what appears to be a draft of an email written by Ghislaine to Jeffrey. The actual photo itself is not referenced. It talks about a photo being taken. I don't think that, it's easy to draw the inference that you have drawn. I would maintain that Ghislaine continues to have tremendous doubt about the picture that was published and believes that it is not the original and may have been doctored in some way. We don't know.
But one imagines if she really believed that these emails from 2015 would have been her saying, "I can't believe they've got this photograph, it must be a fake, I don't ever remember it." But that's not what she's saying. What she's saying is, we've got to figure out a way to explain this photograph, which is an entirely different argument.
That's your interpretation.
But it is her flat in the photograph. It does look to you like it is her flat in London.
It does look like it's her flat. Yes, I don't think that's an issue.
Ghislaine Maxwell has said she could not have been in that photograph because she was at her mother's birthday party that day, a party Ian says he was also at.
And have you got any photographs?
I don't know. Probably. I mean, it's quite a long time ago.
Sure, but you mean, but I imagine that the family would try and find the photographs if they could exonerate your sister.
Listen, it's one of those things that needs to be checked out. And my mother did turn 80 on that day, and a party was held, and Ghislaine was definitely at the party. There's no issue. All of the children were there.
So you can provide the alibi for your sister then, in that case?
Yeah, I think so. I can't imagine that we could not find that. Nobody's asked us to produce anything. So
I'd love to
see what we will do.
For an 80th birthday, one imagines there would have been photographs.
There were photographs, for sure.
And one final note, Virginia Giuffre died by suicide in April. Thank you, James, for the conversation. Coming up, the FDA reversing course, saying they will now review Moderna's new mRNA seasonal flu shot after first saying they would not. We'll tell you about the change. And we know humans, even some adult humans, they love stuffed animals. So why would this baby monkey at the zoo be any different? That story coming up. You're watching Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. A deadly avalanche in Northern California has killed at least 8 skiers. One person remains missing and is presumed dead. Authorities calling it one of the deadliest skiing avalanches in U.S. history. Rescuers are facing dangerous conditions trying to reach the scene. 6 skiers were rescued, including a guide. Passengers on an early morning Delta flight from Houston to Atlanta jumped into action after another passenger allegedly became unruly. One passenger told our affiliate in Atlanta, WSB, the man started punching everybody and he allegedly tried to storm the cockpit. Video shows the man screaming at flight attendants before the crew and several passengers held him down while the plane turned around. That passenger escorted off the plane in zip ties. And the distinctive baby blue and white colors of Air Force One will soon be part of history. The Air Force announced the planes will be repainted in red, white, dark blue, and gold, the color scheme preferred by President Trump. DHS has already started painting some of those planes. Coming up, a rare shark filmed for the first time in this part of the world. What researchers make of the discovery. But first, our ABC investigation into the real cost to Americans as communities grapple with the AI boom. Now to an ABC News investigation. Half of all the new demand for electricity over the next 5 years in the U.S. is expected to come from data centers. They are the backbone of AI technology. In partnership with our stations across the country, our Elizabeth Schulze shows us how they're dividing communities, bringing the promise of new jobs, but fears of higher utility bills.
This was the sound at Laura Evans' home in suburban Chicago last spring when backup generators kicked in at the data center 1,000 feet from her backyard.
And it never goes away.
Never goes away. Laura tells us the data center emits a low hum 24/7, and it's not just the noise taking a toll. She says in the last year, her average electricity bill has spiked 23%.
And how do you budget when it's changing that much in 1 year?
You can't.
And the electric company warned prices could rise even more.
They need more power at the data centers.
Saying one reason why is increased electricity use from data centers and artificial intelligence.
The energy demand from these facilities affects our ability to meet clean energy goals, have a livable planet, and also just pay our bills.
ABC News and our owned and affiliated stations spoke with communities across the country, grappling with the rapid buildup of data centers to support the AI boom. An analysis from our data team found there are more than 3,000 data centers in the U.S. About 1,200 more are now under construction or soon to be built.
If you're watching a show or if you're using AI, ultimately a lot of the computation happening there, or at least the storage for that thing, is in a data center somewhere.
And our analysis finds a majority of the country's large data centers are or will be in cities, towns, or developed suburbs.
You need a really well-developed, very consistent grid. They need to be extremely reliable in the energy that they use, because if a data center suddenly goes out, if it completely loses power, all the tens of thousands of people who are interacting with it are suddenly going to be very mad.
When these data centers go offline, gear apps can go down almost right away.
Exactly.
So this is pretty much as close as we're going to get to where this data center is popping up. It's just a massive construction site. Hard to comprehend the scale of this.
A 2-hour drive north of Laura's home, we visited the site of what will be one of the biggest data centers in the U.S. in the small town of Port Washington, Wisconsin. A $15 billion project backed by OpenAI and Oracle that's part of the White House's Stargate initiative announced on President Trump's second day in office. The campus sits on a plot of farmland bigger than 500 football fields and will eventually use about the same amount of electricity needed to keep the lights on in all the homes in Philadelphia.
They'd be putting power lines that are taller than apparently the Statue of Liberty.
Tom Utek has lived on this land for 40 years. He's an artist who draws inspiration from its natural beauty. Last year, he got a letter from his utility company saying it plans to build a massive power line for the data center right across his property.
I had no choice. And basically they're saying that if you don't agree, we will take it by eminent domain.
They'll just take over your land.
Yeah, and we'll fight it to the end.
He showed us where the power line would go, wiping out dozens of trees he planted.
There's no way this environment around this neighborhood could ever be the same if it's cut in half again by these giant things.
We expect attendees will act in a civil manner at all times.
At a town hall this month, we saw how the data center is dividing the community.
We need clarity, and we need it now, because we are not going to pay double the amount of our utility bills. Do you understand that?
These are good-paying union jobs that are part of a once-in-a-generation investment in Port Washington.
Mayor Ted Neitzke defends the project.
These are huge companies that are kind of the face of AI right now, OpenAI, Oracle. Are you convinced that they will be willing to invest in this community?
They've been awesome. I mean, they have met every expectation we have given them.
He says the data center will create 4,000 temporary construction jobs and bring in much-needed tax revenue.
My greatest fear was that I would wake up one day and our downtown would be a ghost town again. And as a dad who raised my kids here and was born and raised here, I wanted this to be a better place.
But some residents still aren't buying it.
This is an abuse of power.
The mayor even facing an attempt to recall him from office that ultimately failed. This video shows one opponent who chanted recall at a city meeting last December. She's handcuffed and physically removed from the meeting by police.
It was incredibly shocking. I never imagined anything like that ever happening.
There was a pretty heated moment a couple months ago at one of the council meetings.
What are you doing?
How do you react to the backlash from the video?
How do I react to it? I can play you the voicemails of the threats I receive from all over the country to my family's safety. I can play you the voicemails of the threats to our police department from all over the country.
In statements to ABC News, the tech companies behind the Wisconsin project pointed to economic benefits for the region. OpenAI said, in Wisconsin and across all our U.S. Stargate sites, we are committed to paying our own way on energy so that our operations do not increase local electricity prices. Oracle added it will invest in wind, solar, and batteries, which means more reliable, affordable energy will be available to local families and businesses. And Tom Utek's utility company tells us the route it has chosen for the power line offers a lower cost to ratepayers and maximizes the use of existing corridors.
Why should people who don't live in this area, might not ever come to this part of Wisconsin, care about what's happening?
They should care because it's their backyard next.
Back in Laura Evans' backyard in Aurora, Illinois, local officials made the decision to put a 180-day pause on building new data centers.
We basically put a pause to make sure that if these data centers want to come in, that they can be good neighbors going forward and try to really address some of the concerns that our citizens have.
The city's pause on new data centers, which ends next month, was a way to buy time for local officials like Allison Lindbergh to put new regulations in place.
Is the conversation around how to regulate data centers happening fast enough as how much they're popping up right now?
I definitely think that the regulations need to be happening faster. The fact that we, as this smallish city, are the ones that are leading in this is frankly pretty surprising considering the magnitude of the impact of these data centers.
In a statement to ABC News, the data center just behind Laura's home apologized to neighbors and said it is committed to supporting policies that accelerate new power supply and grid technologies to improve reliability and moderate costs over time. And it installed temporary noise barriers while permanent engineered solutions were being designed and fabricated.
Some proponents of this technology say this is the future. What do you say to that?
Build it somewhere else and just make sure it's done right, because this isn't right.
The future is here. Elizabeth, thank you. Coming up, a dramatic bridge rescue after a social media stunt gone wrong, and the road to the Oscars is upon us. We sit down with the nominees highlighting this year's historic Oscar achievements. Our new series, Oscars for the First Time, when we come back. A social media bridge stunt leaves a teen in the hospital, a rare shark sighting in the waters off Antarctica, and one judge decides, can you actually call a boneless chicken wing a wing? These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. An apparent social media stunt sparked a dramatic rescue on New York City's Queensboro Bridge. Video shows first responders carefully working to rescue the teenager who fell about 50 feet into a narrow shaft on the bridge. The 16-year-old boy was with friends when it happened. Crews from the FDNY and NYPD searched tower by tower for him. Authorities say the entire incident may have started because of a social media trend. The teen is still recovering at a local hospital. The FDA has reversed course and will now review Moderna's mRNA seasonal flu shot. Last week, Moderna announced the FDA refused to review their application, raising concerns across the vaccine industry about how the agency would handle future applications surrounding vaccines. The dispute centered around a large clinical trial and whether it included the right comparison for seniors. Moderna has now split its application by age group, seeking traditional approval for adults 50 to 64 and accelerated approval for those 65 and older. If approved by the FDA, the new vaccine could become available by the next flu season, which starts later this year. Less than 2 weeks after winning Super Bowl 60, the Seattle Seahawks are now up for sale. The estate of Paul G. Allen, which has owned the team since Allen died in 2018, announced it has started a formal process to sell the franchise in line with his wishes to direct proceeds from his sports holdings to philanthropy. It's the first time in the Super Bowl era that a team has been put on the market shortly after playing in the championship game. The sale process is expected to continue through the 2026 offseason. NFL owners must then approve any final deal. Researchers have filmed a rare sleeper shark swimming in Antarctica's near freezing waters for the first time. The shark, estimated to be between 10 and 13 feet long, was captured more than 1,600 feet below the surface. Researchers say climate change and warming ocean waters may be driving the sharks to the southern hemisphere's colder waters. A judge is dismissing a lawsuit over Buffalo Wild Wings boneless chicken wings. Listen to this. The plaintiff accused the restaurant of deceiving customers by putting the boneless wings under the menu's wings section, even though they're actually made of chicken breast. Buffalo Wild Wings argued its advertisement was not deceptive and pointed to its cauliflower wings that are also under the menu's wings section. In the ruling, full puns, the judge says the complaint has no meat on its bones, and the plaintiff did not drum up enough facts to support his case. A baby macaque monkey at a Japanese zoo has stolen hearts around the world after being seen with an unusual companion. The 6-month-old named Punch was abandoned by his mother months ago. Zookeepers hand-reared him and, to ease his loneliness, introduced a stuffed orangutan. Videos of the playful interactions have gone viral, drawing visitors to see Punch and his beloved stuffed toy at the zoo. Oh, we love Punch. We are celebrating the road to the Oscars with a new series we are launching right here on Prime. Here's Lindsay Davis.
The countdown to the 98th Academy Awards, Hollywood's biggest night, is now underway, and we're rolling out a new series right here on Prime, Oscars for the First Time, a segment that highlights this year's historic Oscar nominations. First up, a brand new Oscars category is unveiled. Take a look.
First new Oscar category in 25 years.
For the first time, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences will debut an Oscar for achievement in casting.
Gabriel Dominguez.
Casting directors from 5 films have been nominated in this inaugural category. ABC News sat down with nominees at the annual Oscars nominees luncheon in Beverly Hills.
I'm super happy and honored to be here. There are 3 American movies, 1 British movie, and 1 Brazilian movie. We got it.
Gabriel Dominguez is nominated for his work on Best Picture candidate, The Secret Agent.
We had this idea of mixing very well-known Brazilian actors with people who was in their first work on a movie. I guess for the movies, it's good to have like original and authentic representation of faces that are unexpected in a way. This will to absorb some of the Brazilian expression.
Jennifer Venditti is nominated for casting the ping pong drama Marty Supreme.
I feel like the thing that's so special about Marty Supreme is that it is a tapestry of humans, of eclectic humans, and I think that's I'm in the field of casting because I'm obsessed with humanity and exploring what it means to be human. This work started for me being obsessed with people watching. I always say I'm like psyched to be on jury duty. I love the DMV. I love all the places that people hate.
This new award recognizes the integral role casting directors play in putting together a film's acting ensemble and focusing on the overall creative selection process. The casting directors for Sinners, One Battle After Another, and Hamnet are also vying for Oscar Gold.
Will you be brave?
Yes.
Will you be brave?
It makes me emotional because there are so many incredible men and women that came before me that were part of this crusade, to get this category nominated. And it feels, for all the people that aren't here with us that have done incredible work.
Casting directors can often play a crucial role in the discovery of new and up-and-coming box office talent.
That's just how the cards were rolled out for me.
It's dice, sweetie.
Chase Infinity and Miles Caton are just two of those breakout stars this season.
Somebody take me.
Cast is a combination of the greatest movie stars and some new talent that we are so lucky to have, brought into the film at this time. But yeah, Chase Infinity, Tiana Taylor, Sean Penn, Leo, Benicio. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches, I keep saying.
Chase Infinity plays Willa, the fearless daughter of Leonardo DiCaprio and Tiana Taylor's characters in One Battle After Another. She reportedly almost missed the audition notice in her crowded inbox. After 6 months of auditions, chemistry tests, and a 4-day karate training intensive, she landed the role.
When you look at Sinners and Francine Maisler, yes, Michael B. Jordan playing two roles, but it's about the discovery of Miles Caton.
Right here? Yeah, right now. Come on. All right, come on.
And for Sinners casting director Francine Maisler, the role of Sammy, played by Miles Caton, started with a poorly lit audition tape. He'd never acted before, but was a child prodigy, even going on tour as a teen with the singer Her.
It's the sunrise. Those brown eyes.
When they're casting Hamnet and you have Jesse Buckley and Paul Mescal, it's not just getting them, you have to go find little Hamnet, the one that anchors the entire story, the boy that will inspire the greatest piece of writing in Shakespeare's repertoire. And you find Jacoby Jupe.
Yes. And something you'll notice about some of the films this year, real everyday people were cast in some of the roles.
If you see Marty Supreme, there's kind of a cross between fiction and nonfiction. There's real people, there's actors. We like that kind of alchemy between real and pretend.
For something like The Secret Agent, a Brazilian film, Gabriel Dominguez, it's not just about Wagner Moura. It's about all the little intricate roles. The little Brazilian lady that takes Wagner Moura in, her name's Tanya Mario. She has never acted before. She's not an actress, but she adds this flavor.
She was supposed to be an extra, but they were so fascinated about her that Kleber gave, 2 lines for her. And she absolutely enlightened the movie, and she's a diva, right? Everybody falls in love with her because she's amazing.
And with these casting directors, you just never know when it might be your big break.
The waiters at the lunch. I got my waiter, the woman, I have her number in my purse. Her face was incredible.
You can catch the 98th Academy Awards on Oscars Sunday, March 15th, live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's on ABC, and you can also stream on Hulu. That's our show for this hour. I'm Perry Russum. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks for streaming with us.